When I was young, I was a student before all of Pierre Boulez. And I got in good terms with him, and he conducting my music. He started my career as a composer. And so here in Paris, there was a series of concerts called Domaine Musical, founded by Boulez, which was the pole of the activity of Paris. All the journalists were there systematically. And so I had a starting of my career in that area. But there was soon rivalries with other composers who wanted to take the succession of Pierre Boulez. They understood that Pierre Boulez was tired of running this concert and they wanted the succession. So there was a lot of rivalry and I became tired of it. So when I was proposed a position in Berkeley, teaching, I said, okay, well, I accept and I go away.
So how long have you been there?
Only 2 years because I was so disappointed
By Berkeley.
Yes, Berkeley was, it was at the time of EP. It was nice. I had good relationship with students, but the other professor were so so like that. Oh my God, I thought I should suicide if I stay there.
Yeah.
So I resigned very violently and came back here in the 70s. And the 70s here were a good period because after all the crisis of 68 to all the student movements, there was a certain freedom developing. People were talking each other, exchanging, etc. So there was something positive, and everyone was curious of all kinds of music. At this time, I did many broadcasts at the French radio, in France Culture, etc. Many magazines. I was running a series of world music, to discover Japanese, Tibetan, Indian music, which were not so known at this time. So there was a huge curiosity for new music, world music, modern music, electronic music, of course.
And then, so when did you try acousmonium for the first time? Was it in the 70s?
No, acousmonium was I did only one concert before. Was in 1982 for Gakunomichi, for that piece. I did in concert.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your experience in Paris in the 70s? You said it was, I mean, now you say that it was very open and people were.
In the 70s, there were many festivals. Festival of Royan, Festival of La Rochelle, which were led by journalists, dynamic journalists. So they invited many journalists from the world, and there was a sort of rayonnement, we say in French, was many lights going to other countries. It was a little bit like the Non-Washington Festival is for modern music in Germany. Royan, La Rochelle were important festivals. We had festival of the SMIP, SMIP, led by Maurice Fleuret, an excellent journalist of this time. So there was a dynamic, and the ministry had been creating, after our protest in the 60s, had been creating a direction of the music, which had a specific budget for music, and which were giving money, supporting those festivals, etc.
So you've been presenting your works at this.
So in the 70s, I've been mainly in Europe, and I had more activities, more public activity, more solicitation, little bit more commission and proposal from festival or things like that.
And your experience with VDR studio of all kinds of.
Yes, VDR was fantastic. I did my first experience in '72 when I got this invitation at the electronic studio by Stockhausen, and I was at this time I was perhaps thinking I shall do a small study of 10 minutes because I don't know electronic, etc. But I had the chance to Karl-Heinz came for my first visit, introduced me to the team. And in the team, there was this sound engineer, Volker Müller, who is as old as me now, but who was new in the studio at this time, had never worked with other composers, and he's a personality with an extreme curiosity on sound. He loves sounds, he likes sound. So for 8 days, we were like two kids in the studio, plugging everything. Can I plug here? Yes, and okay. And so we were just sort of exploring the studio without preconceived ideas, without any philosophy, in total freedom. So my education came from being a collaborator with that engineer, that sound engineer, without any dogmatic preconceived idea, without any academic idea,
And then you wrote Shanti.
And then I did Chanty. That's why I did that big piece, because of once the time was passing, I felt poetry was coming from the sound, and I felt stimulated as an exchange with the studio, the technology, the team, the reaction of the team, etc.
Okay, so then you came there with an intention to make 10 minutes and then said that you made like,
2 hours and a half. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you prefer to work with this large scale formats like 2 hours?
Yeah,
3 hours?
because I tried to explain once, because I have been asked very often this question.
No
and
surprise.
It is coming from my education. When I was young, my parents were modest. They had less opportunity to go to concert than to go to the movie on the corner of the street, So every week I was going with my parents to the movie, and a movie, is at least 1 hour and a half or 2 hours, it's for the whole evening. And I took the habit of having one piece for a whole evening, And I got the habit of this type of timing, construction, And that comes mainly from my cinema culture, more than my music culture.
Okay.
Of course, I love in music the long form also. I love Mahler Symphony, of those things. But I think I applied in my electronic music that cinema culture which came from my youth. And it is true that I hate the habit of concert, of doing 5 or 6 pieces, all short, maximum 15 minutes. If it is 20 minutes, they say, oh, it's too long, etc. When you go to a theater, you don't go to see 5 or 6 little play in the evening. You go to the theater, it's one play for the evening.
I composed a series called Lilliputian, so because it's about a large number, over 100 of very, very little tracks, like 15 seconds each.
Very good, very short. Yes. Miniature, well, why not?
15 to maybe 30 seconds each, and then you can actually listen them in every order. It's another extreme, making very,
Yeah,
very...
but I don't reject the other extreme. Pieces by Webern, I love, short pieces, 30 seconds, that can be miniature extraordinary, That I can appreciate, of course.
But have you ever worked in a GRM studio for making your compositions?
I never made a GRM. When we were young, the camp of Pierre Boulez, the camp of Pierre Schaeffer, were like that. François Bell, we rarely met,
Your friend now.
Yeah, he became progressively my friend, That's changed completely,
But that's great.
Now they are the closest people to me, are the people of the GRM, And without them, I would be very isolated in Paris, Well, I have several friends on the side of the youngest people, the noise people, like Kasper Toplitz, was in Japan participating to the creation of this noise movement, international movement. Merzbow, yes. He was a good friend of Merzbow.
Okay.
They did concert together in a whole group. Well, anyway, I have this solidarity, very strong solidarity from that generation, because they recognize a little bit part of what they do in all my research of electroacoustic, etc. They have been supporting all the collection I published, and that came through the distributor Metamkin,
Yeah,
on
Jérôme
internet.
Nottinger.
Jerome Nottinger, yes, he became an
Once I
excellent.
played a concert with him in Vienna, so
So
with the tapes.
with the Revox, yes, he is very
Was
good
nice.
at those type of things. Since I tried to publish my record, the first record I published was this piece, and they all waited because they heard about that piece, which had success in the 70s, and they immediately show solidarity. And Jérôme Nottinger phoned me. I was at the hospital. Phoned me. I want to distribute it, etc. Yes. So since then, they have been writing article in a marginal review, to support my production, support my recording, and that type of solidarity is important to me.
And then, yeah, I read that there was an article, I think in the New Yorker or something, of 19, maybe 82, of your presentation at the Experimental Intermedia, right, in the New York.
Yes, it must be at the loft of Phil Niblock.
Phil Niblock, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but the articles were not so.
yeah, the article was not
good.
so
No,
great.
no.
I mean, I think the
No,
journalist.
I presented Gakunomichi
Okay.
at Phil Niblock.
So what's your connection to this New York minimalist scene, if you can call so?
Not so much. No, not so much. I know personally Morton Subotnik because I tried to work also with his wife, John La Barbara, the singer. Subotnik, I have an excellent relationship with him. He invited me several times at Cal Arts when he was teaching at Cal Arts. And I have a good relationship with Terry Riley. We cross sometimes in festival, and we are happy to see each other. We don't frequent each other because he's far in California, I'm here. I had excellent exchange also in Berlin with Lamont et Young.
Lamont et Young, of course,
He had a grant like me, We had both a DAAD grant,
That's great.
the same year, and so we could exchange. And
Well, I really like his gallery, this Dream House in New York.
yeah, Dream House.
Together with Marianne Zazila, and then there's a
Yeah,
very minimal but very nice
sure.
sound atmosphere.
But all these people are not so well known in Paris. Lamont Young is rarely heard here.
And you said that you feel yourself more at home sometimes in Cologne rather than here.
Yeah, at least now, yes. Because in Cologne, I have quite a number of friends at the university or among the young generation, or the elder and the young generation, both. And they came to my concert last week,
Yeah.
and they were much more warm than the audience I had yesterday, but I was sure this concert hall is too big at Radio France, During the years before, since it was at work at Radio France, they did their concerts in a concert hall called in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. Smaller concert hall, about 300 people.
How many people are there where you played yesterday?
Oh, I don't know, but I will not say more than 150 or something like that. Huh? And it's for the concert hall is for 1,400 seats with the balcony, So I was sure it would be a small concert. Furthermore, Radio France doesn't support this concert. They accept those concerts, but they don't publicize. They don't announce even on the radio. They don't do any broadcast. Everyone told me if I had not been receiving your poster by internet, I would never know about this concert.
Okay, so you promoted by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yesterday I noticed that you are primarily using the frontal speaker situation, so you are not so much into using the back speakers, or?
Oh yes, no, I did use them, but they were not perhaps powerful enough. You were under the balcony at about the same level as myself.
I was just sitting on the right
Yeah, yeah.
from you.
Uh,
So basically, I
I
get.
think the position of this console is very badly set by the engineer.
Uh-huh.
It's too much under the balcony, you know. They ought to put it 4 meters before, you know. But I was using a little bit the
Yeah.
back,
Sure.
but perhaps it was not powerful enough in the back. And since there are so many speakers
And these
in the
trees.
front,
Trees
I use
of
them
speakers.
very small,
Yeah.
very small, because it's just for extremely high frequencies, you know. But it depends of the material. I have not so much high sound, or if I have high sound, they are strong and perceived, and well, you know, the acousmonium is not my habit. I feel more at ease with 8 Mayer in a smaller concert hall, like I did last week in Cologne.
Okay.
I felt much more comfortable than at the acousmonium. Acousmonium, of course, it's a beautiful point of view. It's a beautiful, but we need the habit to use it. We need to exercise oneself with it, you know, to conceive the pieces for the use of the acousmonium. François Bell, who invented the acousmonium practically, he conceived pieces which are well adapted for the acousmonium because he has multi-tracks and he knows the high sounds for these, etc. He knows in advance the grouping of his composition, you know. He composed mainly for the acousmonium, sort of way. So he has great skill for composing in that way. This is not so much my skill.
So yours is more the octophony
Or something
stereo.
like octophony or quadriphony, because at my time it was quadriphonic. I have another big work called Yoin. It was composed in the 80s, at the beginning of the 80s, at the Institute for Sonologie in Utrecht.
Utrecht, yeah.
All the electroacoustic was made there. But then I made a live part, more or less improvised, with a good friend of mine, who is the percussionist Michael W. Ranta, who is an American percussionist living in Cologne, you know, who I met in Japan, you know, because we had both many connections with Asian art and Japan, etc. But he came back to Cologne, created his own company, which is import and export of percussion instrument of very high qualities, called Asian Sound. Yeah. So I co-produced this piece with Asian Sound and with Michael Ranta, and he had a part of solo to perform with the electroacoustic, you know. It's a long work, 3 hours and a half.
So this is that he performs it live and then you perform the tape.
Yeah, I performed the tape and he performed. I perform the tape permanently and he performed sometimes some scene, you know. But
Okay.
he has a whole installation of about 200 percussion instruments all around, you know. We need a round place, you know. So he makes Act 4 in that configuration, Act 2 in that configuration, 3 and 4, there are 4 acts, you know, which are part of the day, you know. Act 1 is morning, you know, prayer or things like that. Act 2 is the working day, you know. So he has a whole table with tools, you know, and he performs with mallet, all types of things, you know. Then Act 3 is the end of the day, meditation, etc. And Act 4 is the night, and the night, not the calm night, but night of dream and nightmare, bad dreams, persecution, oppression, etc.
Well, there can be a lot of musical ideas on that nightmare direction, I guess.
There are many people who like this piece particularly because it's very much concrete, much more concrete than what I do now. And they like the relationship with the percussionist and the electroacoustic. Since now Michael Ranta is too old to perform it, and it's a heavy production, so I would like to make a full electronic piece out of urine. You know.
So you use the recordings of him to put it together with the...
I use all the material because I have all the original material from which I developed the electroacoustic, concrete electroacoustic, you know, and I would like to develop more, not too much using his own material, but develop more in electroacoustic, you know, new scenes, you know, or something like that, and to have a new version of that piece. But that's a 1 year work, so I don't know if.
So normally, how long does it take for you to make a new work? It takes years, I guess. No?
This one took me 2 years, but not permanent. I was going back and forth to Tokyo. I had about 10 months of studio in the whole. About that last piece took me at my home 1 small year, about, but not working every day. Working at other things to do outside. Yoin, when I did all the tapes, took me about 10 months. I had the studio for 10 months, permanently at Utrecht. They were very helpful. They transposed to the first floor of their building all the teaching classes, you know, so as to free the down studio, which was the main analog studio, for myself. And since I wanted to be free, they gave me the key of the studio. They told me, now, this is your studio. You work as long as you want, night, day. There's no neighbor to disturb you. Saturday, Sunday, everything. So I work very intensively in Utrecht, you know, very intensively. Day and night. Because in a radio studio, you have a minimum of help for manipulation, you know, assistance with tapes, you know, can help you, you know, and you gain time. While in Utrecht, I was totally alone. So all the manipulation were to be done by myself.
So that time you've been working with the tapes and you...
Yeah, tapes,
okay,
yes,
so it's not
of course.
computer or...
Oh yes, and there were. Oh no, there was no computer. Yes, they were at the beginning of computer. No, but there was mainly a lot of voltage control machine, you know, and voltage control is always very interesting. Then, oh yes, I worked with traditional Japanese musicians. Yeah. I was commissioned by the National Theatre of Japan to compose for the Gagaku Orchestra, their traditional Gagaku Orchestra. And I said the Gagaku is not enough, I want something else. I suggested electroacoustic, but they refused. And they proposed me Buddhist monks, chorus of Buddhist monks. So I said, I am interested, but how can I compose for Buddhist monks?
Do they have some kind of special system of the notation, I guess?
They have some kind of Japanese notation, but it's mainly memorization type of thing. So I wanted to really compose something for them, you know. I don't want it to quote their repertoire, you know. So they organized a meeting, and two of the responsive monks came, and we discussed. They spoke a little bit English, you know. And at one moment, I took a paper and I drew a line, you know, like that. I said, sing me that. And they sang me something quite close to the graphic. So I said, okay, we have a connection now. I can make a whole graphic score, and I shall send you those graphics. You will learn them, etc. That's how we manage. It was the first time in Japan that Buddhist monks were used as performers. Yeah.
When was it?
That was in 1983. Yeah. Of course, the French did not understood why I went to compose so far. And
You said you were accusing exoticism or something.
yeah, many times, yes. Even recently, there was a girl doing a thesis in university with exotisme post-colonial. Post-colonial. Well, so, well, I sent to her a very strong letter, and oh, furthermore, Japan has never been colonialized by anyone, you know.
Mm.
So since I worked mainly with Japanese performer, her thesis was without meaning.
Sure.
And she was accusing me of using, for example, Gakunomichi, you know, this is a foreigner name, you know.
Mhm.
So I said, you know, I worked 2 years. They gave me their main studio in Japan. So it was a way to thank them to call my piece with a Japanese name, you know. And that Japanese name, that character means Tao. The Chinese interpret it as Tao of the music, you know. So Tao, I said Tao today is not exotism. Tao is a concept, Chinese concept known all over the world, you know.
Sure. It's a part of the.
Yeah, it's part of the world culture, you know. Oh, but this, some of the student universities, they live in a very close situation. They don't travel.
Mhm.
They have no curiosity to see in other countries what's happening, you know. They live in a small world, uh, which I said, you know, I wrote to their teacher, their member of jury. I said, you know, now you must help this girl to travel, to
Okay.
get a grant, to go to Japan, to go to all countries, you know, to open the eyes on the world. You know? So,
Right.
so they were furious. They were furious after me that I care to write in that distance.